Hello, my dear learners. I hope that you are learning economics with me. In this video, I am going to give you a review for one of the topic from the elasticity of demand. In my other video, I have already covered price elasticity of demand, where we consider the changes or the proportionate changes in the quantity demanded for a good because of the proportionate changes in the price of the good itself. In today's lecture, I am going to cover cross price elasticity of demand, which is going to be very interesting. Why? Because here we are going to consider the changes in the or the proportionate changes in the quantity demanded because of the proportionate changes in the price of the other goods, not the price of the good itself. Then comes the income elasticity of demand. I am going to cover this type of elasticity of demand in another video. Can we calculate cross price elasticity of demand? Or how can we define cross price elasticity of demand? We can define cross price elasticity of demand for a good by considering the proportionate or percentage changes in that good because of the changes in the price of any other good. That can be in form of substitutes or complementary goods. Substitutes and complementary goods together are known as the related goods. So let us first consider the cross price elasticity for substitute goods. One point you must note it down here that the sign for cross price elasticity of demand is actually very important here to distinguish between substitutes and complements. Okay, so let us start with the substitutes. Substitute goods are those goods that can be used in place of each other. So you can replace one good with another. And what can be the example? Let us consider one of the traditional example of coffee and tea. Coffee and tea can be, you can replace tea with coffee or coffee with tea. So when coffee become expensive because of the increase in the coffee, you can replace it with tea, which is cheaper than coffee. So basically you increase the demand of the substitute if there is an increase in the price of the other good. Okay, so and there are a lot of different examples for substitutes where you can substitute one good for another. For example, a very famous example that that is always there whenever there is a focus on the substitutes. Cola and Pepsi, you can replace them with one another. Okay, and in the same way, butter and margarine, you can replace these goods with one another. Okay, so now let us try to understand cross price elasticity of demand. For complements. Complements are those goods which actually essential for each other. You always demand them together. For example, paper and printer. Whenever you are going to purchase a printer, you always going to demand paper, because without paper printer you don't need to use printer. You cannot use printer. In the same way, there are other examples for complements. For example, let us take an example from your breakfast cereal. Your breakfast cereals always need milk. So milk and cereal, they are complements for each other. They complete each other. You demand them together. So if the price of one of the complementary good is increasing, then of course it is going to affect the demand for the other good. Okay, so this is just the background for to understand the concept of cross price elasticity of demand. Okay, now come back to the substitute. I am just making a separation between these two, complements and substitutes. Why? Because the cross price elasticity of demand is going to be different for both of these. So we need to explain or understand them separately. So cross price elasticity of demand, for example, for tea, it can be written like this. Changes or proportionate changes in the quantity demanded for tea because of the proportionate changes in the price of the coffee. So if price of coffee is increasing, then quantity demanded for tea, what it would be? It will also increase. Why? Because of the increase in the price of the coffee, people, they will buy less coffee. They will increase their demand for tea. So you can see that both demand and price changes in the price, they are moving in the same direction. They both are increasing. The numerator is increasing and the denominator is also increasing. So in that case, we can say that the cross price elasticity of demand for substitutes is always positive, with a positive sign. So whenever you are given a value for the cross price elasticity with a positive number, then it means that you are dealing with the substitute goods. In the same way, if price of coffee decreases, then in that case, what will happen? People, they will purchase more coffee and they will purchase less tea. So again, both of these numerator and denominator values, they are moving in the same direction. So whenever there is a direct relation, we always denote that with a positive sign. I hope that you have understood this concept of the cross price elasticity with regard to the substitutes. Now come to the complements. Complementary goods are always demanded together. So their demand moves together in the same direction. So cross price elasticity of demand for paper. If we consider the example of printer and paper, then in that case, the changes in prices for printer, if they increase, then what will happen to the quantity demanded for paper? It will decrease. So you can see that because of the increase in the prices of the printer, the quantity demanded for paper is going to decrease, because at higher prices, people, they will purchase less number of printers. So when there is less purchase, of course, the quantity demanded for paper is also going to decrease. So you can see that both of these quantities in numerator and in denominator, they are moving in the opposite direction. So if one is increasing, the other one is decreasing. In the same way, you can understand that the other situation, when the price of the printer decreases, so printer become cheaper for people, there will be an increase in demand for printer. So when people, they are buying more printer, then of course there is an increase in the demand for paper. So in case of complements, both the quantity demanded for paper and the price of the paper, they always move, price of the printer, they always move in the opposite direction. So we can say in a general way that cross price elasticity of demand for complements is always negative. One is moving, if one is increasing, if prices are increasing, then the quantity demanded of the complement is going to decrease. So that's all for this slide, and I hope that you have understood it in a very, very clear way. On the next slide, I am going to give you some practice questions, so it will be more clear for you that how can we distinguish between the substitutes, cross price elasticity of demand for substitutes and complements. Let us now practice what you have learned about cross price elasticity of demand with regard to the complements and substitutes. Again, consider the example of milk and cereal. If the demand for milk decreases in response to the increase in the price of its related good, which is cereal, then in this case the cross price elasticity is going to be negative. Why? Because numerator and denominator for cross price elasticity formula, they are moving in the opposite direction. The quantity demanded is decreasing in this special case with the increase in the price of the cereal. So whenever we have cross price elasticity as a negative quantity, then it actually indicates that the goods are complements. Complementary goods are those goods which demand at the same time. So both milk and cereals, they are complementary goods. They are complementing each other. Now consider another case. Now consider the opposite situation in the same market of milk and cereal. If the demand for milk increases when the price of cereal decreases, then in that case, what would be the sign of cross price elasticity of demand? Here again, you can see, if you look at the formula, then quantity demanded for milk is increasing in response to a decrease in the price of cereal. So in this case, we can say that the cross price elasticity for milk and cereal, it is negative, which actually identify again that milk and cereal, they are complements to each other. We demand them together. Now consider another example from the dairy market. We are considering butter and margarine. These are the two related goods, but we don't know whether they are complements or substitutes. In order to do that, what we have to do? We have to calculate the cross price elasticity of demand, and the sign of that cross price elasticity of demand actually determines whether the goods are substitutes or complements. So to understand it in a more clear way, let us consider this example, which states that if the demand for margarine increased when the price of butter increases, then what will be the cross price elasticity? You can see that both quantity demanded for margarine and the price of the butter, they are moving in the same direction. Both are increasing. So it means that the cross price elasticity is going to be positive, which indicates that these goods are actually substitutes to each other. Substitutes goods are those goods which can be used in place of each other. So if the price of butter is increasing, then you can substitute it with margarine. Or if the price of margarine is increasing, you can substitute it with butter. So now you just have analyzed that how it becomes so easy for us to identify whether the goods are substitutes or complements. It just by looking at the sign of the relationship or the direction of change in both quantity demanded of the good and the price of the other good. Now consider the reverse situation of the previous case. Here, the statement of this example says that if the demand for margarine decreases because of the decrease in the price of the butter, then the cross price elasticity for margarine is going to be positive. Why? Because both the quantity change in the quantity demanded and change in the price are moving in the same direction. And this actually indicates that butter and margarine, they are substitute goods. Substitute goods are those goods which can be demanded in place of each other. So you can replace one good by another. You can replace margarine with butter or butter with margarine. I hope that you have understood the topic of cross price elasticity of demand from this video. So now you have learned about price elasticity of demand and the cross price elasticity of demand, and there is only remaining the income elasticity of demand, which I am going to cover in the next video. If you like this video, then please don't forget to thumbs up, and if you further want to see more videos, then you are welcome to visit my channel. Thank you.